The sun was resting well below the horizon when my alarm went off on August 21st, 2017. After wiping the sleep from my eyes, I looked at my clock and saw that it was 3:30. I hadn't been awake this early in decades. I knew every minute was crucial for the day to go as planned, so I quickly rolled out of bed, got ready for the day, and jumped in my car. When I arrived at my office, 2 coworkers greeted me. They told me to get in a large white van with them, and we headed north. This wasn't my idea. The day before, I was convinced to tag along on this trip against my better judgment. The crowded freeways added to my suspicion that this adventure would be more hassle than it was worth. Despite my concerns, I tried to stay positive as we traveled to our destination. Unfortunately, none of us knew exactly where that destination would be. I had been to Idaho Falls a handful of times growing up, but only as a child on family vacations. I could tell you all about the streets where we played night games or the backyards where we jumped on trampolines, but I had no idea where to go for an event like this. Neither did my coworkers. After several hours in the van, we drove through the middle of town in hopes of finding a convenient place to stop. The multi-story buildings and tall trees made it hard to find a good location, and we couldn't find people assembling anywhere in the city. After a few more unsuccessful passes through town, we searched for open spaces to the east. We found a rural, 2-lane highway and made our way towards rolling foothills about 20 minutes away. As we climbed in elevation, we found dozens of cars parked along the side of the road. We joined them, stepped outside, and looked up. About 100 million years after our solar system began to form, the Earth was still swirling into existence. As it was taking shape, no fewer than 10 major cosmic collisions slammed massive asteroids and meteorites into our developing planet. In most cases, the Earth absorbed this space debris the way a potter adds small clumps to a large ball of clay. However, one Mars-sized object struck with such force that it tore away a huge portion of our planet. The newly separated mass spun itself into a sphere and began circling the Earth. With that, our moon was born. Moons are not uncommon in our solar system. More than 200 orbit our neighboring planets. However, the way our moon formed makes it unique compared to its lunar counterparts. Most moons are created when fragments of rock and ice are captured by the gravitational pull of larger planets, not by ripping apart a planetary body being formed. The distinct way our moon was created makes it much larger relative to Earth than the typical moon-to-planet ratio found elsewhere. The moon used to be much closer to Earth, but it travels about 1.5 inches farther away every year. It currently sits 238,900 miles from us and appears in the sky to be the same size as a pea held in your outstretched hand. Coincidentally, and quite miraculously, while the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, it is also 400 times closer to us. This phenomenon makes both the sun and moon appear to have equal sizes when we look at them in the sky. Due to the way the moon is gradually distancing itself from us, this improbable similarity in apparent size will not continue indefinitely. However, on that summer day in 2017, the match was nearly identical, and it had to be for us to witness what we had traveled to see. When we first looked up, we were wearing protective eyewear specially designed to safely stare into the otherwise blinding rays of the sun. As we watched, a small black curve began inching into view. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, darkness consumed more and more of the light around it. As the light was overtaken, the sky began to dim. Animals prepared for nightfall, even though it was mid-afternoon. Peculiar shadows began forming on the ground, and a stillness grew in the air. Everything about our surroundings felt uneasy and unsettled. The sun slowly became a thin, crescent sliver, and its outer rim began to be overtaken by the moon's tallest ridges. Lowlands on the moon's surface allowed glimmers of light to shine through, leaving what looked like a string of dazzling pearls nestled against the moon's outer edge. One by one, each sunbeam disappeared, which issued in the main event. In an instant, the coverage was complete. We removed our glasses, and I witnessed a heavenly display that I'll never forget. Several individuals let out audible gasps, and I found it difficult to stand upright. As I gazed upward, the purest white light I'd ever seen gently swirled around a perfectly black, circular abyss. The horizon's circumference radiated with a yellow-orange glow, creating gorgeous silhouettes of windmills scattered across the landscape. I looked back up and tried to savor each moment. I kept my eyes trained on the small black dot floating majestically in the middle of the sky, and I watched as elliptical arches of brilliant light continued to dance around the moon's outer edges. The ordinarily unobservable magnificence of the sun's corona became fully exposed, and I stood in complete awe of what I was seeing. I reflected on how incredible it was that all this was possible. Totality, the time period where the sun was entirely covered by the moon, lasted only about 5 minutes, but every second was spectacular. I considered how fortunate we were to be living in a time where the alignment of these two celestial objects fell into place in such an astoundingly perfect way. I was amazed at the contrast of the threatening, ominous buildup that yielded such an indescribably beautiful, thrilling climax. I marveled at it all.